Here I am outside the IMAX, and I've just seen Spider-Man 3D, and I'm going to go back now and give a review of it. Hi guys, I know it seems a little strange to be doing an Amazing Spider-Man review on the day of The Dark Knight Rises, but I needed to get this out of the way. I'm going to see the film later on today. Can't wait, really buzzing. I'm trying to avoid everything on the internet. But I really needed to get my thoughts of The Amazing Spider-Man out of the way first. I would have done it a couple of weeks ago, but I have been under the weather quite a bit, so haven't really been able to do any reviews since after the London Comic Con. But I did go to the IMAX London BFI, and I have to say that place is amazing. I definitely went and got The Dark Knight Rises tickets for that movie, which I'm going to go and see on the 1st of August. I'm just going to go to a Cineworld today and watch it. But it's just an immersive experience. You know, it's 3D. Just you can't compare 3D to a standard screen then compared to the BFI IMAX, which is, you just feel like the thing is actually going to hit you in the face sometimes. You know, especially with like the 3D previews and everything you get before the movie starts. The actual Spider-Man film itself, I really enjoyed. For me, it had some flaws in it, which I'll go through. So while I'll say it was a really good movie, I probably wouldn't put it in my top 5 for 2012. It's only just about, I'd say it's just outside that. I enjoyed the actors. I thought all the actors were great. I think there was not really anyone in there that I thought did a poor performance, and they're all the older actors. They used seasoned actors, well-known actors, and they did a wonderful job with their roles. Especially Martin Sheen, who was great as Uncle Ben, and Andrew Garfield, who has been great in The Social Network. Gives a great performance here as well, and Emma Stone is always reliable. Really enjoyed the relationship between Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. I kind of felt that was actually more enjoyable, and also him becoming, he's the Spider-Man origins where he's becoming Spider-Man. I kind of found that more enjoyable than the actual development of the villain, which was very generic. This was another problem with the film. I found, while it did go over a lot of old ground, the first Spider-Man that Sam Raimi directed, it did go over a lot of old ground. It obviously had to cover Uncle Ben being shot and killed. It did it better in The Amazing Spider-Man, in my opinion. I actually enjoyed Peter Parker becoming Spider-Man in this new movie as well. But it's, as I said, it's familiar ground, so it's kind of like, come on, I get it already. Let's move on from him here. I mean, you got to go through the high school story again. He's having issues with Flash Thompson again. I mean, there's even a scene where he has to rescue a child from a vehicle dangling from a bridge, which in the first one had a bus dangling from a bridge. And the villain, once again, is a guy who is a scientist, is developing something, and obviously is working for people who have no real faith in him and treat him badly, and he's against time in what he's making, and obviously the guys that he works for are putting pressure on him and going to cut his funding. It's just like the Green Goblin. And I kind of, that part of it, I was like, oh, this is why do they seem to have to go through the same route every time with the villain? It's obviously that's the one thing that Spider-Man needs to do in the sequel. They need an outright villain who has no redeeming features whatsoever, because they've done that now in 4 movies where he's a tragic character. And while that's interesting, that's great. Once you've done it 4 times, it's time to kind of find a new type of villain. That's what I like about Loki. Just once you think he's got a redeeming quality, and I did feel sympathy for him a little bit in Thor. He basically, is just a bad apple, and especially he proves that in the Avengers. And I found with the CGI in the Amazing Spider-Man, it was really good. I mean, the 3D where he's swinging and everything. Spider-Man looks great. Unfortunately, with the lizard, close-up shots of the lizard speaking, they just look really goofy. Didn't like the close-up CGIs in it, I'm afraid. The actual movement and the fighting scenes with the lizard were good. It's just that part where they're having him talk to Peter Parker, it didn't feel right. It's not quite as bad as the last Twilight movie I saw where they had the wolves talking, but it was it was getting there, unfortunately. So for me overall, I enjoyed the film. I think that it had a really good storyline. Unfortunately, you kind of like saw what was going to happen. When Gwen Stacy's father found out who Peter Parker was, you kind of thought, well, he's obviously not going to make it to the end of the film. But it was very well directed, and it was better acted, I think, than Spider-Man 1. For me, Spider-Man 2, still the best Spider-Man movie. As I said, it's just outside my top 5 for 2012. My top 5 being Chronicle, really enjoyed that, which I was surprised at. The Grey, which is a fantastic film, I loved it. The Raid, which, simple storyline, but the martial arts in it are so amazing. They really tell the story in a way. Where am I? I've said 3, and then we've got Prometheus. Love it or hate it, I'm in the love it crowd. And I understand why some people really dislike the film. It's just one of them things. I like it. There's no point in me defending it because, you either, as I said, you make your mind up when you're watching the film. And number 1 is Avengers for me. Now, while it's no deep and meaningful movie in a way, it's like no classic acting in it or anything. It's a brilliant interpretation of a comic book. It's perfectly portrays on screen what you would get if you were reading a comic, and I found it totally exciting and fun all the way through. And I don't get why people want to compare it with The Dark Knight. The same with Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man. I thought it was going to go a bit darker, and while it does feel more realistic than Raimi's interpretation, it's still very comic book. I like the way how in The Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man's still making jokes. It's still quite light-hearted in a way. One thing I was a bit puzzled by though is because I think he actually caught the guy in the end who killed his Uncle Ben. Well, I assumed it was him. He looked very similar to the guy that shot Uncle Ben in the movie, but I couldn't work out if it was definitely him because Peter Parker didn't seem to have any emotional reaction to that. He was still making jokes and jumping out of the way of bullets and everything. So I thought if he'd have actually caught the guy, it would have. They kind of slipped up there a little bit on that part. They lost the emotional impact of that. But overall, good fun film. And now I've got that out the way. I'm going to go and see The Dark Knight Rises later on, and I will do a review for that today. Thank you very much. I'll catch you later.